Okay. Okay. So till now you are clear about the different concept of financial accounting and managerial accounting. The next concept which we are going to study is manufacturing cost. Okay. So I will take a 5 minutes break, and after that we will start with its manufacturing cost, inshallah. And I will also update this whole video on your SAP, and you can trace and you can listen and you can differentiate or you can recall different things. And if still you have any ambiguity, you can come to me. I will explain in my capacity. So, second part of today's lecture is to define and explain cost and different types of cost in manufacturing process. So what is cost and how cost is different from expense? Can you explain that to me? What is a difference between cost and expense?
So expense is cost is basically when the product is being produced, all the expenses that go into that. Okay. Whereas general expense can be anything, like for example, paying the wage of labor, paying the wage of marketing. All these things come in expense. But cost is directly linked to the product.
As per my limited knowledge, I also second you. Cost is the amount which is incurred to acquire an asset, and expense is a portion of expired cost. For example, if I have purchased a mobile loan or mobile balance of 1,000 rupees, that is a cost. The moment I have purchased, they have deducted tax, that is a tax expense, that is consumed. Supposedly I have received 750, okay, that is a cost still, and that 250 is expense which I have consumed. For example, the moment that 750 appear in my gas portal, I have purchased a package worth 500. Now that 500 is also a expense. That's why it is a debit, because I have utilized it. It is now my asset. So cost is something which is incurred to acquire an asset, and expense is something which is the consumed or utilized part of that asset. Getting my thing, bacha? So today we will discuss the cost. Okay, different types of cost, and we will start with the manufacturing cost. What is manufacturing cost? The manufacturing cost is a cost which is incurred in manufacturing process. Okay, and we have three types of manufacturing cost: direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Okay, I will repeatedly use a term, and I request you to memorize it. Traceable in per unit. In per unit. In per unit. Okay, I will repeatedly use that term, so I have written it here. So you must keep in mind while at least discussing this particular. So manufacturing cost is basically comprised of three costs: direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing. Okay. First, I will define them formally, and then I will discuss them as per their classification. Excuse me. Okay. Direct material cost is the cost of material which is being used in production process, and it is traceable in per unit. We have 2 points: being consumed in production process, the cost of material, and is traceable in per unit. Direct labor cost is the cost of labor that is working on production and is traceable in per unit. Manufacturing overhead is all that cost which is not traceable in per unit. Let me give you a very basic example or two examples. Have you ever seen a person baking roti or chapati on tandoor? Have you seen? Okay. So may I give the example of that particular industry or manufacturing? Because that also a manufacturing unit, na? Okay. What is the material in that case? Okay. So that can be counted or measured in per unit. For example, 80 gram की रोटी हम सुनते हैं repeatedly that a bread weight must be 80 gram or at least वो जो उसके लिए उसको क्या यूज करते हैं पेड़ा कहते हैं हम that must be of 80 gram. Okay. So that is a direct material cost. For example, if 100 grams of weight is equal to 100 rupees, so 1000 gram, it means 1 rupees is equal to 10 grams. So 8 rupees is equal to 80 grams. So 8 rupees material is being used in one chapati. Similarly, a person who is baking that or who is making that can make 1000 chapatis per day, for example. Okay, so and he's receiving 2000 rupees of cash, 1000 rupees of cash per day. So 1 rupee as a labor. Okay, and similarly, a person is getting 500 per day who is making that pedas of that particular thing. So it means 0.5 rupees again, 1 roti is going to that guy. So 1.5 rupees is a 1.5 rupees is a direct labor. Okay, but still on that particular tandoor, there are certain things which are not traceable in per unit. The fuel you are consuming, the wood you are consuming to burn that burner, can you trace them in per unit? You are definitely having a water connection from which you are getting water to make that, mix that wheat, to make that ready for baking. Can you count that in per unit? Definitely you will be having a fan or some cooling system. Can you calculate that in per unit? You must be having a one bulb on the top of that tandoor or somewhere. Can you count that electricity in per unit? Okay, there must be a guy who must be coming every day to clean that things or to clean the mess over there. Can you count his labor? So it means there are so many things which are not traceable in per unit, and you can only identify or trace them after a particular month or period. They are utilities, they are material being used, they are labor being used, but they are not traceable in per unit. Maybe you are having a person at cash counter, okay, and you are along with that door you are having some restaurant as well. So that guy is also working and selling different dishes, foods to the item, plus he is also managing the cash of your tandoor. So can you trace his labor in per unit? So the labor, the material which cannot be traced in per unit, okay, that is known as manufacturing overhead. Okay. So here is another example for you to better understand. Supposedly, you are in a manufacturing industry, okay? Because there is another aspect of differentiation as well. Supposedly, you are in an automobile manufacturing industry and you are a newly hired intern in managerial accounting department. So your manager asks you to define direct material, direct labor in manufacturing. So in automobile, if you ever gone through any documentary of Rolls Royce or some famous brand or even Pakistani brand, you will see that there are different departments. One is making the body, and other fitting installing the engine, other are installing the audio things, and so many there are departments. Supposedly, we are currently discussing only the body makers. Okay, there is a plant. Many people are working. Okay, what is direct material? The material being consumed to make so that body, the iron, the aluminium, whatever material you are using. Okay. which is direct labor, the labor which is actually touching that thing. Okay, the one who is welding, the one who is painting, the one who is moving, that can be known as direct labor. Okay, but they must be having some people who is a security guard outside of that factory. There must be a sweeper who is coming every day to clean that stuff. He's not touching the product. He's not involved in the production process. But still, he's contributing. His salary is being contributed. So that's also goes in manufacturing overhead costs. Okay? So there are two different aspects. Traceable in per unit, and if the labor is directly touching the material, that is. Here also, because the amount of paint per unit maybe it cannot be traceable. Okay, there's so many things which are not traceable in per unit here as well. But the direct labor differentiation is a bit different when you are going into the larger manufacturing concern. The one who is not touching the product is not a direct labor, rather he is a manufacturing overhead person, and his cost must be traced in manufacturing overhead cost. Clear, मेरे बच्चे? Getting my point? Okay. What is direct material? The raw material that become an integral part of the product and that can be conveniently traced directly to it. Okay, trace, whenever a term trace came, it means per unit. And that's the only word I want to listen in your presentation or I want to see in your answer. Getting my point, Bachaji? Okay, example, a radio installed in an automobile, it is a direct material. Okay, okay, I think it will be a more than explanation. Direct labor cost, the labor cost that can be easily traced to individual unit of product. A similar definition I will explain to you. Wages paid to automobile assembly worker, but not to the, that even not comes in a manufacturing cost. That is another cost I will explain. That is a non-manufacturing. Because still, that security guard is in a factory now, he's not in a selling unit. He's involved in that manufacturing process, but he's not touching the product. Getting my point, Bache? Okay. Okay. So, so now the third cost is manufacturing overhead cost. Manufacturing cost that cannot be traced directly to a specific units produced. Example, indirect material and indirect labor. Material used to support the production process is one of the example. Wages paid to employees who are not directly involved in a production process, for example, maintenance worker, generators and security guards. Examples जो कि material होते हैं, जो lubricant use होता है, cleaning supplies use होती हैं, that all the part of that manufacturing overhead cost.
इसके अंदर इसमें भी चीजें आ सकती हैं जैसे एयर कंडीशनर वगैरह जो
जी, everything which is not traceable in per unit. We will stick to that particular term जो मैंने आपको पहले बताई थी. Okay. So now there is another classification of cost, prime cost and conversion cost. Prime cost is a cost which basically is a sum up of direct material and direct labor. If we add these two costs, then it is known as prime cost. And conversion cost is a direct labor plus manufacturing overhead cost. Okay, so it simply means conversion means when we are converting material into a product. So if we add a direct labor and a direct material, that is product prime cost, and if we add direct labor into manufacturing overhead, that is a conversion cost. You must remember that. I will explain them in next class, inshallah. Okay. So next two costs are selling and administrative cost. So for this particular classification of cost, let me draw an income statement here. Is it visible to you, Bacha?
So, Bala's video system is literally both in this.
Okay. Beta, what is income statement? In income statement, we have sale minus CGS. Okay? And then here comes the gross profit. Then we subtract selling and administrative expenses. Okay? Then here will be net profits. Okay? So our first lecture is basically was about the classification of different costs. Okay? And in associated to that, our second lecture will be how to measure CGS and subsequently CGM. Okay? So, managerial accounting or cost is more merely concerned about CGS because that cost is associated with the production of things. But there are certain costs which are the part of that product but not during production process. Okay? That is selling and administrative expense. Okay? Actually, Bacha, in managerial accounting, we study the cost that only incurred, or we classify CGS as a cost which is sum of all the costs within the factory. Within the factory. How? You have purchased a raw material, it is coming into warehouse. It is going into the production. Okay? And from there, it is going into the finished goods warehouse. So, beginning inventory of raw material, purchase, ending, you have put into the production, you have produced some particular things, and then you have sent it to the finished goods. And now, from finished goods, you will sell them. And the cost you will incur during the selling and managing process, that will be selling and administrative expense.
जैसे for example carriage outward जो cost.
Carriage outward, marketing campaign launch कर रहे हैं आप, everything which is related to that. You have a people जो कि इसकी रिकॉर्ड कीपिंग कर रहे हैं फिनिश गुड्स की, वो प्रोडक्शन में तो शामिल नहीं है ना, ठीक है, जो उसको आउट कैरेज को कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं, they are not, because they are not they are touching the product, not they are providing any overhead to the production process. ठीक है, that's why administrative. आप कुछ वहाँ पे stationery लेके आ रहे होंगे that to manage these processes, that will be not part of that process, rather that will be selling administrative.
So जो quality check होती है वो इसके अंदर process में आएगा?
हाँ, वो that the quality check will be within the production process. That will be overhead cost. That will be overhead cost. Okay, so the first classification of cost was based upon selling, manufacturing cost, and we have studied three types of cost: direct cost, indirect, direct labor cost, sorry,
direct labor, direct material, and direct and other costs.
Okay, give me another classification from this as well. Net cost, indirect cost. Direct cost, traceable in per unit, Okay, and is the sum of direct labor and direct material. Okay, and indirect cost is basically MOH, manufacturing overhead cost. Okay, so the part of what we were studying earlier. So manufacturing cost is comprised of two costs, direct and indirect. Okay. So now we have another classification of cost. Like Zoha beta, here I think I should explain something before going to another. Have you ever studied derivatives or integration? Actually, beta, whenever we have different classification of same thing, it means every classification has certain objectives. Okay, so the first classification of cost is direct and indirect. Okay, second classification is fixed versus variable cost. Can you find any difference between them?
The variable cost is that varies with the result of the production process. It changes, it does not remain the same.
Okay, and what is variable cost?
So variable cost is that.
अच्छा,
आपने दूसरा कौन सा है? Direct cost. So fixed cost is basically the cost that stays constant regardless of the production process.
Okay.
And variable cost is the one that changes regardless of the production. For example, the production process may have, for example, the number of units that you produce, the more raw material will be required.
Okay. Okay, beta, let me put it in a bit different way. Like why we have this these two classifications. What information basically those two costs are providing to us? The direct and indirect cost is basically telling us about that how much per unit cost is. So basically we can set the per unit price basis upon that cost. And we can get an idea how much material we actually need, how much material we doesn't need. On the other hand, fixed and variable cost basically explain about the volume of production. They do not give any information about the volume of production. They only give us information about the per unit consumption of material, total material needed, but they do not give us any information about the level of production we need. Okay, and how cost behavior change according to the production level. So here we need the second type, which is fixed and variable cost, which basically help us in understanding that how cost moves during with how cost moves with the flow of production process. Okay, so Bismillah. Okay, so cost classification for predicting cost behavior, how a cost will react to change in the level of business activity or the production volume. The total variable cost change when activity change. Total fixed costs remain unchanged when changes. Do you have any understanding about this particular things which they are saying that variable cost will change and fixed cost will remain same? He's saying variable cost, the cost per unit per long distance minutes talk is constant, for example, 10 cents. Okay. He's saying that variable cost has two characteristics. It remains same in per unit, whereas it changes in total. Okay? And the behavior of fixed cost is other way around. Okay? It changes in per unit and remain same in total. Getting my point? Okay. Now give me an example for you.
So fixed cost के अंदर rent आ जाता है, salaries आ जाती हैं जो आप pay कर रहे हैं.
जी. Let me explain it according to the production. Okay. Supposedly, Bacha, you have a plant worth 10 million. Okay? Plant worth rupees 10 million. And the capacity of that plant is to produce 100,000 units. Okay? Fixed cost per unit, if we produce 100,000 units, is equal to 10 million, okay, divided by 100,000, so equivalent to 100 rupees. Okay? Variable cost per unit is equal to 70 rupees, for example. Okay? Now, here I have an example. Suppose he have an order to produce 50,000 products only. Okay?
So regardless if you're 50 करने हैं, 50 करने हैं, cost उसकी उतनी ही रहेगी.
Let me. Suppose he has received an order of 50,000 units. Okay? For year 2022. Okay? Now fixed cost per unit for 2021. Okay? Fixed cost per unit is equal to 10 million. Okay? Divided by 50,000 is equal to 200 rupees. Okay? So, and variable cost is equal to 70 multiplied by 50,000 3.5 million. Okay, but here total variable cost were 7 million. Now look into it. Now the production unit of production has reduced to 50,000. Fixed cost remains same in total. Okay, but it changes in per unit due to the decrease in production activity from 100 to 200. As production activity from the desired will reduce, fixed cost per unit will change. Why? I will explain next time. And similarly, the variable cost in per unit remains same, regardless you're producing 1000 units, 10,000. But the total variable cost, here it was 70,000, 7 million, here it is 3.5 million. Now, let us get per unit cost in total. Suppose if we are having MOH of, okay, forget MOH right now, we will not be confused. So, total cost is equal to, in 50,000 units, 10 million plus 3.5 million, okay? It will add up as 13.5 million, okay? ₹270 if a firm is producing 50,000 units, okay? And if a firm is producing 100,000 units, then total cost will be 17 million, okay? Cost per unit will be divided by 100,000 units, 170. So, if they are underproducing, the per unit cost has increased. So from here we got an idea that variable cost remains same in per unit, but change in total. Fixed cost remains same in total and change in per unit. So for an optimum production, as much as we produce closer to the maximum capacity, our per unit cost will reduce. So this is giving an information how much we should produce and how much we should not produce. Whereas manufacturing direct and indirect cost was not giving any such information, they were only giving information that about a per unit cost. Clarity है मेरा बेटा? Should we proceed further? अब थोड़ा सा हम graphically भी इसको देख लेते हैं, okay? Total variable cost, your total long distance telephone bill is based upon how many minutes you use. हम कहते हैं जी यहाँ से मोटरवे पे जाने पे एक 1000 सीसी गाड़ी जो है वो 10 रुपए पर किलोमीटर पे चलती है. हम एग्जांपल लेते हैं, ठीक है? So if you are traveling from here to Sahiwal, that is a 200 kilometers. Then multiplied by 200, 2000. The more you will travel, the more cost will increase. It means it has a direct relation. Okay? कितनी आप कंजम्पशन करेंगे, ठीक है ना, उसके साथ साथ वो या प्रोडक्शन करेंगे वो चेंज होती रहेगी. It will keep on changing. Whereas fixed cost will remain same.
So इस केस में fixed cost कौन सी होगी?
Fixed cost ही होगी.
नहीं मैं क्या नहीं मतलब जैसे for example आपने
हाँ गाड़ी की सब फिक्स गाड़ी है.
गाड़ी होगी.
हाँ वो 1 लाख 1.5 लाख किलोमीटर तक वो फिक्स रहेगी, या उसकी जो डेप्रिसिएशन है वो कहीं ना कहीं काउंट होगी. मतलब वो 1 लाख, अब फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू हैव स्पेंड 10 million, so maximum there must be a value जो कंपनी ने लगाई होगी कि ये 1 लाख किलोमीटर चल सकती है, ये 10 लाख किलोमीटर चल सकती है. That will be a fixed cost. Okay. Okay. So fixed cost remains same in total, change in per unit, and variable cost remain same in per unit, change in total. Okay. However, another concept which I'm going to give you, that fixed cost also remains same for a particular. For example, if you have an order of to produce 200,000 units, but maximum your plant can produce 100,000 units, then you have to acquire another plant, na? Getting my idea? So to produce that 100,000 extra unit, or you have to outsource that unit in any way. So in any such way, if that is a step fixed cost, to certain level your cost will remain fixed, then you have to invest more to make your production capacity or to enhance your production capacity. Getting my point, bacha? So this is the behavior of, I'm not getting what's happening here. Okay. So behavior of cost, total variable cost changes as activity level changes. Total, definitely. And per unit remains same. Total fixed cost remain same when the activity level change to a certain level. Okay? Keep in mind, 100,000 was a cap. Till then it will remain same. And average fixed cost per unit change as activity level change. Direct indirect cost I've explained. I think we should end today's lecture here. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me for this particular session.